Kyle McClellan from NSM. Today's presentation is titled The Right Partners for the Road Ahead. It is with our firm, NSM Insurance Group, in partnership with Nationwide Insurance. And just a little background on kind of the purpose for today. Really the idea behind the webinar is to ultimately learn a little bit more about NSM, but more importantly, to understand Nationwide's coverages, the services, the capabilities that they have from a loss control perspective. Many of you may not have been aware of Nationwide's history in the school bus industry, and our goal today is hopefully by the end of the presentation that you'll see and understand the differences in their approach. Today's agenda, again, as I mentioned, a little bit of history of both NSM and Nationwide. We're going to go through an in-depth review of Nationwide's coverages, highlighting a lot of the risk management services, as well as claims and loss control services that will be available for all of their members. Go through some of the various trainings and safety programs that can be implemented throughout the year for their members. And then at the end of the presentation, our team will discuss some new ideas and strategies for your upcoming renewal. With me today, as I mentioned, my name is Kyle McClellan. I'm with NSM Insurance Brokers. My role and responsibility on our team is really everything school bus related, both working with prospective clients and also our current school bus clients, managing the existing relationships and making sure that the lines of communication from our team and our clients are running smoothly. Guys, on the line, John, you can go next.
Yeah, guys, before I intro myself, if everybody could just mute themselves, there's some background noise that's cutting off people need to hear. With that, I'm John Bueller. I'm the director of our retail division. More importantly, for today's call, my role is I onboard all of our new clients, which obviously would include school bus clients. So my team and I, we work with the producer, which would be Kyle, and act as the middleman between the new prospect and Nationwide to get that initial placement done. And then once we get that initially placed, we would either turn that over to a service team to handle going forward, or my team would handle that renewal going forward. And with that, I'll turn it over to Regina to introduce herself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Regina Chapels. I am the program manager with Nationwide Insurance. And what that means is program manager handling our school bus program in its entirety from an underwriting and agency relationship standpoint. Teammates, including Gary and Jackie, they'll be introducing themselves, work very closely with our loss control and our claims consultant and our claims department in putting together our program in terms of coverages, rate determination, and also helping to coordinate with loss control, safety matters, and claims handling in terms of consulting and being a conduit between the underwriting services and claims and loss control departments. And next is Gary Gillespie.
Good morning. So I am with the loss control department. I'm a loss control consultant. I've had over 30 years of experience doing loss control for the insurance industry, and 20 of those years in relating with school bus operations. So I have a little bit of experience with school bus operations. I coordinate with Regina and Jackie in the school bus operations that we write to provide the loss control services and the risk management consultation. Jackie?
Hi, I'm Jackie Campanella, and I'm the claims business consultant. I work with Regina and Gary as a liaison for the account with our claims department, and we'll talk a little bit later about more of my services.
And before we jump into it, we will have some time at the end of today for some questions and answers. So by all means, you can throw it in the group chat on the right-hand side of your screen, or just make a note and we can discuss any questions that you might have as we're going along the presentation. So we can jump into it. So before we kind of jump into Nationwide side, just wanted to give a little bit of background of both NSM and then Nationwide. Can touch on their history and background as well too. But For those of you not already familiar with NSM Insurance Brokers, we are a division of NSM Insurance Group. NSM Insurance Group has grown quite substantially over the past 30 years. Our 30th year anniversary was last year in 2020. In the past 30 years, we've grown up to 900 employees, and we'll do a little over $1 billion a year in premium. School bus specific, our team has been working with school bus operators combined for about 50 years. And overall, our team has 80 years combined experience in various areas of the insurance world, from risk management, underwriting, claims, and loss control, as well as our team is active members of both the Pennsylvania School Bus Association and the New Jersey School Bus Contractors Association. And we're kind of located smack dab in the middle. We're in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll take it from here. Again, this is Regina Chapels. So to give an overview of what the nationwide school bus program looks like. So just a little backup. So Nationwide has been writing school bus risks for approximately 20 years, 20 plus years. Nationwide acquired Harleysville Insurance about 10 years ago. And the genesis of the program really was with the Harleysville Insurance Company located in Harleysville, Pennsylvania, predominantly writing risks within PA and the PSBA members. And over years has expanded that to NSTA members and other national accounts. So as Gary mentioned, Gary and Jackie both have been working in this aspect, handling the school bus program for many years. So it is a closed program with expert agents. And what that means, we have very few agency relationships within this program, meaning that not every agent can write school bus risks within our program. And the reason for that is experts like NSM that have expertise in the exposures and in many of the aspects, which, as you all know, are very unique in your industry. We recognize that. So we look to align with those agents that are expert in handling those exposures. And that's why it's a closed program. And perhaps why you haven't known in the past that Nationwide was a writer within this industry segment. So Nationwide has a dedicated and knowledgeable resources in the school bus industry from an underwriting, loss control, and claims perspective. We've talked about that. I've been with the company myself almost 20 years. I have a team of underwriters that I work with that have been with the program as long as well. And again, having knowledgeable resources that understand what the exposures are for the school bus industry and how we can best address those. So we do offer comprehensive coverages. These are specific to the school bus industry. We have worked over the years to fine-tune some of those coverages, as well as expanding them for coverages that really fit the needs of the school bus contractor. Some of them, and I've mentioned them here in the bullet points, audiovisual equipment and towing, rental reimbursement, automatic additional insured status. Those are just some of the coverages that we build out in a all-inclusive broad form endorsement that we attach to the auto policies within our program. These are unique coverages. They're not available in this format outside of our program. So we see that as a real plus and a way to address your needs and your exposures. Abuse and molestation, that's that first bullet point there. We do offer that in New Jersey and other states. So this is a coverage that we write as part of our general liability. Typically, what we do is write an auto policy, general liability, or a package that would cover your liability, your general liability, your property, and the abuse and molestation coverage is built into the GL format. We have special pricing that we extend within our program. Obviously, there's underwriting standards and criteria that go along with us extending those coverages. We do offer umbrella limits. They are available. This is something that we pride ourselves in Certainly you have a need from a contractual standpoint with many of your school districts and the contracts that you have to carry. Very often we see a $5 million umbrella limit requirement. We have the ability to write up to a $9 million umbrella on top of primary of $1 million, therefore providing up to $10 million of coverages. I say that they're available, so again, there is underwriting criteria, and an analysis of exposures before we would extend or making the determination and what that available limit would be on a risk-by-risk basis. So Nationwide provides ongoing value-added services throughout the life of the policy, and Gary and Jackie will talk about this quite a bit. So it's more than just us writing a policy and us seeing you at next renewal. We hold periodic stewardship meetings in conjunction with our loss control and claims folks to determine loss trends, claim activity on your particular account. And the frequency of those meetings really depends on your needs, the claim activity, training from a loss control standpoint in terms of what's needed and what kind of support you're looking for. But again, it's value-added services that are part of the program, and we work with you to determine what the appropriate frequency of those meetings would be. Pre-quote meetings, typically on a new risk, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to determine what your loss experience has been, what your operation looks like, getting to know you getting to know us, what your coverage and service needs are. And all this is part of the pre-underwriting process to make sure that we're able to fit your needs and that you meet the standards of the program that we have established. Same thing holds true prior to the renewal. We're going to evaluate what your risk experience has been, what your coverage needs are. Has there been any changes to your operation during the course of the year? Certainly in this COVID environment, there's a lot of that going on in terms of school and student transportation needs, driver changes and things of that nature. So we're gonna have either a face-to-face when we can or a virtual meeting to determine and to evaluate how the year has gone before a policy renews and what we can anticipate for the renewal. Next page, please. Program risk characteristics. So they are defined in terms of what a good risk looks like and what an acceptable risk looks like within our program. So we write risks that are in student transportation segment. You'll see parentheses here. We do not include or wish to write motor coach exposures. Nor do we wish to write non-school paratransit. It is primarily a student transportation program, so typically you're going to have yellow school buses of various sizes and some vans within your fleet schedules. So typically we're looking for risks that are members of the NSTA or other professional organizations. Kyle mentioned the New Jersey School Bus Association. That we see as a real plus. Obviously, it's going to speak to your safety culture and the importance that you put on meeting certain quality standards. So best-in-class operations is what we're looking to include in our program. Some of the things that we're looking for, but not limited to, newer fleets with current up-to-date technology. And as you all know, that is ever-changing in terms of the technology that's available within the school bus or cameras, dash cams, telematics, things of that nature. We're looking for fleets that consist of units that are no more than 10 years of age. Obviously, we're looking for The newer the better, right? Because it's going to have that built-in technology. But also the proper training of your drivers and your monitoring mechanisms that you have in place. Really important. Risks that meet our driver qualifications, we'll talk about those. We do set high standards for that. And we're looking for risks that are suburban and rural operations. We do not wish to write risks within the program that are urban in nature for obvious reasons, and heavily trafficked areas and just concerns when we're in a more urban environment. And we'll manage risks that are in business at least for 3 years. Hands-on management that promotes a safety culture, very, very important to us, and we're going to get into that in our meetings that we have, either pre-quote meetings or renewal meetings and stewardship meetings. We do have a supplemental application that we have completed at every risk for a pre-quote and periodically throughout the life of the policy at renewal. It gives us really vital information in terms of risk attributes and operations. We also look for prior carrier loss runs that we need for every submission. This is not going to go through this here, but you'll see at a glance what our driver criteria is. We're using the terminology suggested, but obviously this is you're transporting children, students, so we adhere to these standards, with a lot of attention to detail, whether it's major violations. And we do have an ineligibility status. I do want to point this out. Drivers within the program must be regular operator license held for at least 5 years. Anybody with a suspended or revoked license would make the risk ineligible. So next screen, please. So I'm going to turn it over to Jackie. She's going to talk about some of the claim services and more about her role.
Thanks, Regina. So we work very closely with our agents. So anything that is asked of me by NSM or that I need, I'm going to go directly to NSM because we need to support each other. We work also with loss control, and Gary will be the next speaker, and he will talk about services. But I coordinate closely with Gary and Regina, but with Gary, I share anything I see on a claim review I'm doing. So if there's any trends that he can then address in training. You do have a national claims group. Our adjusters, what we've done is we do have designated adjusters that handle our bus claims because they're familiar with what happens on buses and the difficulties that you may have in certain areas when you're driving. As Regina said, we have underwriting support and partnership, and we do have 24/7 claims reporting. Since we're a national company, we can take claims anytime, day or night, and on weekends. My role and my partnership would be to provide a point of contact, a liaison, so that if you're having any questions about claims, that I can intervene and work with you and with the claims department to get something resolved. We do build and foster trust and loyalty. I've been with this program for, I've been with the company 26 years, and I've probably worked with buses 23 out of that 26 years. So I know a lot of the accounts very well and get to know our accounts because that's how we can really work together. As we have said, we do work together with underwriting and our sales and loss control services, and we do provide world-class service to our bus accounts. What I'm hoping is to get back to be able to meet with people in person again, but we've been doing everything virtually and it's worked very well. If we bring a new account on board, I sit down with the account and go through our claim processes and any resources you need to report a claim. We can also talk about creating a customized service plan just for you. There might be certain things that you're looking for that we can help you with on the claim side, and I'm happy to discuss that with you and see what we can do. We also always look, obviously, to ensure a positive claims experience. It's a very tough time. We're well aware of that, especially if you have any injuries of children on the bus or damage to a vehicle that you need to get back into service as quickly as possible. we're well aware of that, and we do work with you to try to get that all taken care of. Regina mentioned I do provide periodic claim reviews as needed, and we'll talk about your larger losses and why reserves were set where they are, and try to keep that going and get your input on, you know, from our claims people perspective as to what happens, so that we can do the best thing we can to defend you or to resolve that claim. And one of the things that Regina mentioned before is cameras. Cameras help us a lot. Even if they hurt us, they help us because we can make a decision up front about what the facts of the accident were. Like I said, we have been doing things recently by video and by phone. So, but when we can travel again, we'll be happy to come out. Next slide. Okay. So we are dedicating to resolving claims as soon as we can based on the information we have. We do have associates countrywide, but for you, for the eastern part of the country, we do have adjusters throughout the country that, throughout this part of the country that handle all our bus claims. They're all very experienced in general liability, material damage, commercial auto and property. I'm skipping comp because we are not writing workers' comp in the bus area, but our adjusters are really good at these other lines of business, and as you can imagine, they're specialized. So you might deal with somebody for the material damage and a different person for the liability, but they do work together internally. We do have a special investigative unit, the short name for that is SIU, that the adjusters will determine if they see any red, you know, blinking lights here that say there's something doesn't seem right, and we might need to talk to our special investigative unit. So they'll bring them in to assist in the investigation. We also have a national catastrophe team, which can be prepared for immediate deployment in the event of a national disaster, such as flooding. If we have comp coverage and there's a flood event or a hail event, we can get people involved right away to make sure that's all addressed and get those claims resolved. Okay. We do have online resources that are available to our insureds on the claims side. If you want information about your business auto claims, you can go to the website that's listed there. It'll talk about On Your Side. You might know that as preferred repair program, but we call it On Your Side. And that's eligible for private passenger vehicles that you might have written under your policy. But there are also shops on there that can do heavy equipment, some of them that can also do buses. You can also file a claim online, and you can file your glass claims or windshield damage claims online as well. We also have nationwide.com business claims. That's for additional online resources. So that also has some loss control components to it. There's bulletins, and Gary's going to talk a lot more about that in a second when he comes up. Okay, next one. Fraud protection. Like we said before about special investigative unit, those losses obviously that people are trying to perpetrate that maybe didn't happen the exact way they said or didn't happen at all that way does impact the cost of insurance for everyone. So we do have our team of SIU, which is countrywide, and they will review fraudulent claims. And then if we find anything, we do refer it to the appropriate state, and those people then can be prosecuted by the state. We do have anti-fraud technology from the point of sale to the claim, including technology for healthcare and medical analytics. That's something when we were purchased by Nationwide grew exponentially due to the fact that obviously they have national resources, so that was very helpful. We also have under insurance fraud prevention tips, employment screening. We have a service that IntelliCore, which you may use or somebody like them, that can do background screening on hiring. It stops you from maybe hiring somebody that you might not have known something about. And there is a discount with that program, and that's something if you're interested in, we can talk about at a later time. We also have slip and fall with prevention, a slip and fall prevention policy, which, you know, we can work with you on, but we also, again, for indoor and outdoor surveillance cameras in your lots, to have cameras are really helpful, because if one of your employees or somebody says they slip and fall, it's really great if we can get a picture of what happened. Auto accidents, commercial vehicles can be targets, as we all know, for insurance fraud. There's certain things that we see, and is tailgating. When we have a tailgating, somebody's jamming on their brakes. This might be somebody that's involved in some sort of a scheme, and then we hit them. Make sure that we do call the police to the accident scene, even if the damage is minimal, because police reports, people don't necessarily want to lie on a police report. They might be more careful of what they're saying. And obviously take photos of damages on all vehicles involved. And I'm going to add also where your vehicle ended up after the accident, because that can help the adjuster in making their liability decision. And noting how many passengers were in the other vehicle is key, because what we all see now, unfortunately, is what we call jump-ins, that somebody wasn't really in the vehicle, but now all of a sudden they're being brought in and they weren't even at the scene. So it's really good to know that there were 3 or 4 or 5, whatever was in that other vehicle. Okay. And you know, how to spot fraud. Just be aware of certain things. People that don't want to talk to the police, they want to leave the scene quickly. They don't want to have their photo taken. They don't want to talk to you at all if they have more than 3 people in their vehicle. So just things to be on your drivers to be on the lookout for. If we get a report from a third party, sometimes you may not know you even had an accident, or you really didn't have an accident, but now we get notice of a claim from a third party and there's no police report and no other information. That's something that's probably going to be further investigated by our SIU department. If you're in a rear end collision and the vehicle stopped quickly in front of your vehicle with no warning, no reason, that's something we want to investigate further, because there's possibly some fraud being perpetrated there. Legal action by a person who said they were injured on your property, but you never had any information that they were ever on your property. You've never seen that person before. That's something that we'll look into further and could be a fraud indicator. And a slip and fall where a witness knows the individual. Claims people are very suspicious. They like to have a non-third party, another person that nobody knew, witnesses it. That makes it a little stronger. But when it's your best friend who just happened to be walking by at the same time, we do have our little antenna up about what's going on there. So that's Gary's turn.
Thanks, Jackie. So our loss control services are made up of various services and products that we'll talk about in a minute, but the staffing includes various safety and risk control staff that have professional designations, expertise, and experience. And I am tasked with coordinating that for the school bus program. So I am in contact with the other loss control staff who will be doing some of the services that we're going to talk about, and making sure that they're coordinated with what your needs are. We do have several dedicated school bus industry clients and experts in our staffing, and Nationwide has been involved, as Jackie and Regina both said, for over 20 years. So we've had the opportunity to develop some resources specific to the school bus industry. Our overall objective with our loss control services is to help you find solutions to help you minimize the losses that you're having. Next slide, please. So our consultation services are going to be specific to the line of coverage, and our focus, of course, is going to be on the business auto. In this area, we're going to have some training resources that we can provide to you, as well as doing reviews of your existing fleet safety programs and making suggestions on loss countermeasures on how to minimize or prevent those losses from happening again. In the GL area, we're going to be reviewing your operations overall, looking at your controls, and looking for gaps or omissions in those controls. And in reviewing other school bus operations, we've come away with a lot of information that can be helpful to you in knowing how other people have handled and controlled some of those types of losses. From the property standpoint, we're interested in making sure that your buildings and vehicles and equipment are adequately protected. As was indicated previously, one of the areas that we focus on is making sure that if you are in a flood zone, that you've got good flood evacuation programs and policies in place, because that is a covered peril for the equipment and the vehicles. But we're also going to look at things like theft and fire as well, general perils of property. We do have some partnerships with some third parties. Jackie already mentioned IntelliCorp. The other two that I think are instrumental for the school bus industry would be Safety Source and Inside Out. That's kind of a hot topic as in the school bus industry right now because of trying to get training out to drivers. So these two third parties can help provide some of that training either through videos or through helping you develop programs that you can put out to your staff. Next slide, please. So as I said, I have over 20 years of experience helping in the school bus operations. What we're going to be basically doing from a loss control standpoint will be surveying and reviewing your operations and controls. We're also going to be looking at your losses for trends. And if you are under the Federal Motor Carrier regulations, we'll be checking your scores to see if there's anything we can do to help you out there and improve those as well. We've had a lot of success with safety committees, even though we don't write the workers' comp typically. Sitting in on the safety committee helps us understand where your concerns and problems are, and again, where we can share some of the benefits that we've found from having dealt with these types of operations in the past. We also have available industrial hygiene surveys if that's a need, and of course, training. When we can get out, we're again restricted right now as to the number of people we can speak to in front of groups, but we can typically do some driver training when we can get out. Next slide, please. So we have various resources available. Again, we've developed a lot of these specific to business auto as well as to the school bus industry from all the years that we've been doing this. Specifically, we have information on Federal Motor Carrier compliance, defensive driving. We have a list of topics that you can use, your managers and supervisors might be able to use for safety meeting topics. Controlling, obviously, the business auto losses is different from controlling other types of losses. So we're trying to develop the resources specifically to helping the drivers. As you know, you don't have any direct control when the driver's behind the wheel, so we need to focus on getting the best driver behind the wheel and training them to make sure that they have the best outcome. We also have some resources that are specific to the parent and students and talks about the safety zone around the vehicle. They've been instrumental for the kindergarten and the preschool kids who are just now coming to recognize the school bus and what it's all about. We'll work to obviously put these programs in place as you need them, as well as, again, reviewing your existing programs for any gaps that might need fixed. So the benefit would be that, you know, regardless of the payout that Nationwide would make on a claim, there are indirect costs associated with every claim that can be significant to you. So we want to try to minimize those to help you affect your bottom line. Next slide, please. We also offer an online service a website, if you will, that you can go to, My Loss Control Services. This is for you to kind of self-serve. What's interesting about this is that while we may be covering you for business auto, there is information on this website for various lines of coverage and for various topics. We do try to cover, of course, business auto specifically that you can see, but there's things from COVID-19 resources. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out that talks about different topics as well, and you can find out more about our third-party services on this website, and it would be accessible to you even as a non-member, but if you are a member, you get some additional benefits and resources from the website. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
So this slide is going to talk a little bit about really how our group NSM works in partnership with Nationwide on a lot of those different services, both from a claims and loss control perspective. Our team internally, both myself and John and the team beneath us, is really dedicated to working with school bus contractors, as well as the claims team that you would have access to. There's 4 representatives on our claims team, and some of them are dedicated to our school bus program. A few points I just want to highlight. As everyone I'm sure is thinking of upcoming renewals and just the insurance process throughout the year. We're usually beginning that process 120 days in advance just to avoid any surprises at renewal, make sure that our expectations are being met. We're never delivering any proposals or anything at the last minute. We're having conversations with Nationwide and carriers well in advance so that there's no surprises throughout the process, especially in today's market, how difficult things are right now that John will touch on in a minute. We talked about the workplace safety committees. That's also something that our team would be involved with, both by attending the meetings, providing training, and different special reports that we'll go through on the next slide. Our claims team is 24/7, handles the reporting of all claims and monitoring of the claims through closure. We provide customized claims management and loss control programs. And I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like in a second. But the one thing that I did want to point out on that report is lately for some of our larger operators, what we're seeing is we're doing loss analysis and history reports by location. So for some of the larger contractors that deal with several school districts, we can actually pin certain claims back by district. So at the end of the year, when you're going back to negotiate with certain districts, you can have a pretty good understanding of how profitable some districts were as compared to other ones. If you look back on your loss history and you saw 20, 30, 40, 50 claims that happened throughout the year, well, how many claims are really coming from which district and why? And that also allows our claims team, as well as Nationwide's claims and loss control team, to get more involved and maybe focus on specific areas than we need to. Claims trending and loss reports, as well as annual workshops and trainings, kind of similar to what we're doing right now. And this just gives you a little bit of an example of some of the reports and analysis that our team will go through throughout the year. I don't want to spend too much time going through this, but as you can see, we would do this on every single line of coverage that you have over the past 5 years, getting a good snapshot of where all your claims are coming from and why, different dollar amounts. I'm just going to continue to scroll through a little bit so you get a sense of what we're looking at, focusing on auto. And I think the big takeaway for this is it provides really a description for what's going on within specific claims that you guys are experiencing. It gives a description of the claim as well as provides the status and future action plan that we're going to be doing. So this is involved in typically our quarterly risk and control claim. Open and ongoing claims on every single line of coverage. And this is really customizable to your liking, depending on what you would like to see. But just wanted to give a little snapshot of what that looks like. Now, let's see if I can do this. John?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So we really wanted the focus of the webinar today to be more service focused as opposed to price focused, but we did want to include a little bit of information here at the end. First point in terms of upcoming renewals, if you haven't heard from your insurance broker yet, the marketplace is in turmoil right now. And more importantly, unfortunately for everyone on the call right now, 3 of the tougher lines right now, lines of business, would be the automobile, the umbrella, and the abuse and molestation. I would say that for a majority of the auto renewals that we're seeing, you're seeing high single-digit, if not double-digit increases. For the umbrella marketplace, I would say we're almost universally seeing double-digit increases. And for the abuse and molestation marketplace, if you have to go out into the standard marketplace outside of what, say, a Nationwide would offer you, the pricing on those is skyrocketing, as are the retentions they want you to take. So the insurance marketplace as a whole in general is in a really difficult spot right now. But again, for the school bus industry itself, the 3 lines that are really the toughest right now are really the focus areas for any school bus company. So just a couple of the ideas that we threw out here in some areas that we've been very successful in terms of saving clients money have been first, auto liability deductible. I would venture to say probably a majority of the people on the line are under a first dollar program right now, which basically means you have an auto claim. You know, we're not talking comprehensive or collision here. We're talking about auto liability. You know, majority of the people probably have first dollar coverage. We've found that by adding either a $5,000 and in some cases a $25,000 deductible, there's enough savings there for it to make sense to move forward. As part of that, we'll do an analysis for you to show you historically what your out-of-pocket would have been. And obviously the math has to make sense to say, let's just hypothetically say, you know, by taking on a $25,000 deductible, we can save you $100,000, and we'd be able to show you on paper, hey, historically your out-of-pocket would have been, say, $50,000. But more importantly, keep in mind you also get access to that cash flow for that time period as well. So again, it's not going to be perfect for everyone, but in some situations we found that adding an auto liability deductible has been favorable to the client. The other important feature of this is that historically, and again, everything's on a case-by-case basis, Nationwide specifically has not asked for any sort of collateral. You'll see some programs where they ask you to post a letter of credit or, you know, some sort of collateral that they would hold. And, you know, again, case-by-case basis, but our experience has been that there's not been the need for that, which is obviously important. One of the other big areas that we've been able to save significant money has been on the uninsured, underinsured. We find that most clients are purchasing $1 million limit. And each state has a minimum required limit. Due to the substantial savings that we've seen and due to the fact that if a driver is involved in an accident, their workers' comp policy would respond and provide the benefits that are required, our recommendation has been to clients to buy the minimum limit. Again, the actual school bus company is not getting any benefit for an uninsured, underinsured claim. An uninsured, underinsured claim would be filed by your driver, and it would hit your policy. So you're basically spending the premium to provide a benefit to your driver in the event they're involved in an accident with an uninsured or underinsured driver, which again then gives them the ability to double dip. They're compensated by their workers' comp, and then they can have the ability to file a claim, which ultimately the school bus company ends up paying that claim. So one of the important things we wanted to point out was when your contracts are coming up for renewal, look out for this. If they have a request that you have $1 million uninsured, underinsured limit, I would really push back on that. We see no reason why a contractor should mandate that. We totally understand the need for, you know, a $5 million umbrella and abuse and molestation coverage and all the other bells and whistles they're going to ask you for, but the underinsured and uninsured is a feature that we find that people are just buying and not really understanding what they're buying. And again, we've bound some clients recently where the savings per unit was upwards of $200 per bus. So imagine the savings you can get there. And then more importantly, you're not exposed to that claim in the event that your driver does have a claim. So again, the big takeaway here, guys, is we would love the opportunity to quote. We'd love the opportunity to partner with Nationwide. They're a great partner. I think they did a great job of identifying the services that they offer. And then the NSM team, more importantly, the NSM claims team works very well with the Nationwide team. And we really look to take all of the heavy lifting from a claims perspective off your plates. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Kyle.
Yeah, and that's really it for our presentation today. Scott, I don't know if we can open it up or if everyone has the ability to unmute themselves right now, but I listed several questions here that could be on some people's minds, but by all means, if anyone has any questions, concerns that they would like to throw out to the group, feel free to fire away or write it in the chat if it's easier. We can hang around for a couple minutes just to see, but I do want to thank our team at Nationwide, Regina, Jackie, and Gary for taking the time for hopping on today and going through a high level of a lot of the services that Nationwide has the ability to offer their clients, because they've done a phenomenal job for us. They're going to continue to, and they've been a great partner for us. So we're looking forward to many more years of success with the team. So I just wanted to thank the three of you for hopping on and doing this today.
This is Regina. You're very welcome, Kyle and John. It's been a pleasure to work together with you to put this presentation forward. So anxious to hear if there's any questions we can answer, but thank you for your partnership and your expertise and for the invitation to participate today.
Of course.